Alright, so let's continue. In this video, we're going to get started on our jacket now. Now, we're going to build off of what we've done so far in our last video where we used a smart material like the superhero fabric, the fabric superhero smart material to create a shirt. We're going to kind of expand off of what we did in both ways. First, we're going to build off of how we can get more of a customized mask folder established for the jacket. We're then going to go on ahead and work on how we can alter that same smart material that we made right here to create a different kind of smart material, and how we can use other smart materials additionally to blend in with it to sort of create a very different looking fabric in the whole process. So again, what we're going to be doing is this area here. So let's just go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing I want to do before I do anything is I want to kind of go up to where it says, not up here, but where it says texture settings, and I want to make sure that I have an emissive channel. So if you haven't already, just go ahead and hit channel, hit plus sign, and look for the emissive channel. In addition, you might need to go up to where it says emissive intensity and crank that up just a little bit under the shader settings. That way, when you drop any smart materials that has a plug-in fill layer of a emissive channel that requires, you can quickly disable that, because we will be using some emissive effects, but we don't want to see other smart materials we've used in the past to light up, and we don't want to have to go through all our layers and troubleshoot every single one. So we're kind of enabling that early just to kind of catch ourselves. All right, so with that said, let's just start in. I'm going to go ahead and create a folder here. I'm going to title that folder Jacket, like so, and just pause if I'm moving too fast, or if anything. That's the beauty of a video tutorial is we pause this. And in there, just go ahead and create a fill layer, and let's just go ahead and just set that to a red and drop that into there. And we're using this as a sort of to get our bearings on where we are establishing our mask for our jacket. So once the fill layer is within the folder, you can just add a black mask, click on the black mask, and just go over and just start establishing your mask. You can either do it this way or give yourself a head start and go ahead and do it kind of texture mask the whole thing. Remember, X is how you switch between values. Now what I want to do is I want to just basically have this folder have just this area, and this area, and this area. I don't want the shoulder pad or the trims of the jacket or this little strip here or the zipper. So we'll just go ahead and paint those out. So to start off with, let's go to our little cuffling right here and see if we can paint that out. And that's also, I'm going to do it through the UV, so I just made a strip and just kind of choreograph that right there. And again, I'm holding left command and right click and horizontally swiping across to change out the size without having to go up here. And we're just kind of painting our mask. We're establishing the mask on here. Don't forget, you can also hold right click, or not hold right click, just tap right click and just adjust the spacing so you have less steps, so that if you do something like holding down the shift key, you can kind of bring yourself to give yourself a little bit more of a straighter line, like so. Alright, let's just go ahead and bring that through. Like so. Alright. Let's do the same thing over here. And I'll just kind of bring it all around. And then I'm just going to hold down the shift key, click, and then hold down the shift key. And make a bigger mask here. We're just kind of hitting the black value to just cover up this mask. It's a little tricky and likes to spill in. That's because this likes to roll off pretty heavy. Sometimes I have to do this on the other side. It's a little bit tricky. Especially somewhere around here. Alright, doesn't have to be picture perfect. So now we need to do the shoulders, same thing. So we'll just go ahead and first thing I'll do is I'm going to click on that fill layer and I'm just going to go over to my geometry select. All this stuff is in the way, so I'm just going to click on the jacket, do an invert, and then just get out of our geometry select. And since that's the only one selected, now we can just make that disappear. We have a little more wiggle room to work with here. Let's just paint this out, and I'm not going to use the UVs for this. And hold shift and right click if you need to adjust the lighting, if you're losing lighting anywhere. And we're just kind of going through, masking everything out. Don't get too crazed out or meticulous or dissecting to the model here. Let's just go ahead and bring this a little bit out like so. And same thing here. And we'll just go through now and hit X, and we'll just kind of clean up everything that we just obliterated. Like so. And we can kind of see a little bit of it bleeding out, and you can kind of just eyeball it if you want. It's not really too terrible. We're on easy mode still. It's tedious, but you know, the reason we're doing this now is so that we don't have to go through we don't have to keep doing this for every single fill layer to make this customized mask. You know, there may just be certain pieces that we don't. There might just, you know, we just want to just drag and drop everything in here. All right. And I'll just go ahead and clean that up. I'm kind of going through it a little quick. Alright, so let's bring everything back. Let's turn everything back on again in the geometry select to avoid any crashes. Let's move on. So now that we have a little bit of a splotch here, so let's just go ahead and take that off. We have a splotch also there. Let's just go ahead and use our geometry select and just get rid of those splotches. If you have any splotches, you can just use geometry select. That will take care of them. Alright, so now that we have all that, we don't really need that fill layer anymore. So what we'll do is we'll start off by what we did last time. We worked with the Fabric Superhero Smart Material. So like I said, we're going to build off of what we did and try to get you to learn more about altering smart materials to look like something completely different. This is going to be very important carry over into your next texturing project. If you're constantly doing this, you're going to constantly have more tricks up your sleeve. So that's what we're trying to build. It's sort of like a snowball effect in all of this. So let's start off by doing what we did before. We'll do Fabric Smart Material, and we dropped it into our folder, and it only affected these areas. Now it looks just the same as it is right now with the shirt, and we want to make that different. So the first thing we'll do is we'll open up our smart material, go through all the fill layers and see what you like and don't like before starting. For me, I'm just going to turn off that hexagon pattern. I might just delete it to save memory. And already it's starting to look a little bit more like a different kind of texture. But we can even take it further. Maybe you want the color of this to contrast more with this. Well, you You can do that too. If you go to the base color here, then kind of check that is the base color. You can kind of turn that off and see how that kind of works with the jacket. Maybe you just want to make your own kind of color of a fill layer right here. You know, we want you to get that the sky's the limit on what you want to do. For me, I'm just going to go ahead and just simply work with just making sort of like a purplish color, maybe something like that. And just for now, that's all I'm going to work with. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add another smart material in here just to sort of get it mixed up with the other fabric superhero material, smart materials, so we can kind of see what they look like. So remember glass visor in the canister? I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that in there. Now, two things about this smart material. One, you notice it's not transparent. That's because we didn't enable any transparency channels or set the opacity of the shader. The other thing is you notice that it's a little bit bright. Well, that goes back to why we wanted to enable emissive, so that whatever we drag in of a smart material that enables glowing effects, we can just kind of troubleshoot it on the fly and not have to go back once we have to turn it back on at the end. So let's just go ahead and troubleshoot that at the fly. Let's go ahead and change our color out. Maybe like we did before, maybe we want to see something a little bit. Let's just make sure it's a good contrast to this one. Maybe we want to see a little bit more purple on this one. All right. So it's still kind of covering up everything, so let's just see if we can find a way to blend this in through a mask or a generator. Now we can use smart masks. We've been over that before, where you just take a smart mask and you just simply drag over. But another thing we can do is just simply, after we make the mask, we just simply add a generator. And a generator is very similar to a smart mask, but it gives us a little more options for adding things like procedural maps into it. So let's go ahead and just do that. I'm going to work with curvature as my choice, and it's not bad. Let me see. One thing we can always do is kind of work with the texture here, and what I'm doing is just doing some experimenting just to see if I can find something that I like here. Let me see. And it's not really doing too much. Let's see if we can this already set to invert. Yeah. It's kind of showing a little bit, but not too much. We're kind of having a little fun really with it. I think the global balance was a little low, so we can kind of see a little bit more of it worked out here. But one thing that I am looking at, that I am kind of seeing, is that you can kind of see how the glass material kind of blends in with the superhero fabric material, which is something I kind of like right down here. That's kind of nice. Another thing that we can do is we can add a paint layer, because again, this is a generator. So what that means is if I click on here, I can't edit this. It's because it's a procedurally built-in mask. So to do that, we need to add a paint modifier, which is kind of left click on the mask, right click, and then add paint. And then we're going to click on that paint, and now we can kind of paint away the mask as we see fit. So that's just something to keep in mind. I don't feel like I need to do anything for painting on here, but it's up to you if you want. One thing you can do is you can go back into your base, and remember, this is a fill layer. You're used to seeing the roughness, you're used to seeing everything else. Maybe you want to make it a little bit more of a drier color so it's not so glassy. Maybe you want to work with the color to be a little bit darker. You know, it's up to you. Maybe you do want to use maybe like something like a paint layer on here to bring in, for example, that was wrong. do want to add maybe like a paint, and maybe you just want to create a very soft mask, and you want to go with like a very low stroke opacity and just kind of blend out things a little bit more like so that, like, you know, you see it really glassy here. Maybe you just want to kind of blend it down. Well, again, because this is a smart material, it cannot be affected like a normal mask like we did with the folder. It's a procedurally built-in generator mask that we used. Therefore, we have to add a paint layer, and because of that, we're painting away some of the details of the smart glass, which is now bleeding into the fabric superhero. So you can kind of do stuff like that. Let me click, but you gotta make sure you're on paint when you do it. You can kind of meld in a little bit. All right. Okay. So that's just going to be how we take care of all that for the main base jack. So we're going to build off of, again, that to incorporate new concepts, new colors. We're just going to kind of reuse stuff and just create sort of like a snowball effect with everything that we see here. So that's sort of a basic breakdown. So in this video, we covered how to modify the smart material to be something very different looking from what this is, even though these are both the same smart material. We showed you how to create a glass material and explained how opacity will not get involved if you do not have the emissive shader properly and the emissive channel properly introduced. We also showed you why it's important to have emissive checked on when you're using glass visor, and also we showed you how to work with a generator, which is a procedurally built mask, like a smart mask is a procedurally built mask. And then we went through and showed you how to experiment with the parameters, particularly global balance. And then finally, because it's a procedurally built smart mask in its own, it can't be painted over normally, so you have to click on the mask, add a modifier like paint, and then just simply paint in the materials that you want to see in order to manipulate the procedurally built smart mask. So that's what we got out of this one. Again, that may seem a little complicated in some ways, especially for a first timer. So what I'm going to say to you is that these basic rules are like something that are mandatory and deathly important as we move forward. So feel free to rewatch this as many times as you can get to get a good strong foundation. In the next one, we're going to work on this front flap here and see how we can get some fun out of that. So with that said, stick around and stay tuned.